Hello and welcome to the fourth episode in our series talking about the movies that I love and that have inspired me. Hopefully I'm going to talk about some movies that you haven't seen, but so some of the ones on this list, they're pretty mainstream. They're cult classics. They're a lot of well-known movies, or they have well-known stars in them. But yeah, the genre I'm going to be talking about this week is action movies. There are a lot of great action movies out there. I talked a little bit before about, in one of the other episodes, about Rambo. Rambo is a great series of movies that I really enjoyed, that kind of muscle-bound action, just mindless popcorn movies. I love a lot of that kind of thing, the popcorn movies. But the Rambo movies aren't on the list, Die Hard movies aren't on the list, because they are great movies, and there have been multiple movies made of them, and there's a reason for that. They're good movies, great stories. Another series of movies that didn't make it onto the list that I really, really wish I could put on the list, but I think it's too big, too popular, too new to be on the list. Everyone knows about it, and that's Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I love those movies. I've watched all of them several times. Even Dark Knight Rises, a lot of people complain about that. I love Bane. I really like Tom Hardy as an actor, and for me, the Batman movies are Christopher Nolan's best movies. I've enjoyed his other movies, but the Dark Knight movies are, for me, the best. I'm a huge Batman fan, and he gave me a lot of material in those movies to enjoy for a lot of years to come. But that's enough about the movies I'm not going to be talking about. Let's move on to the ones that I am. The first movie that I'm going to be talking about is a classic that, again, it spawned a series of movies, but they're not always as popular as the other movies that I mentioned. And the original movie, I mean, it even had a TV series, but the original movie for me is very much a standalone. You don't have to watch the sequels to this movie. The original movie is the best. You could watch it, enjoy it, and not have to watch any of the other ones. And the movie is Highlander. It has a few problems, and it's one of many movies that are currently in production, getting a remake made right now. Hopefully they will do well with the remake. Cautiously optimistic. It's one of those things. I wish that they wouldn't. They should just leave it alone. But there's potential for doing a good job. I like the idea. I like the universe that the stories are told in. I was a fan of the TV series. I like most of the movies. You know, the second movie, but you know, I enjoyed the sword and sorcery kind of stuff. It's not really sorcery. It's a kind of magic, but it's best when it's not explained. The fact that you just have these immortals who fight each other with swords and kill each other and live forever has a lot of potential for some fun, creative storytelling. And so I really like that. And I really like the original Highlander movie. Pretty much the biggest thing that I think that they will improve on will be Sean Connery's character. You know, the fact that he's originally supposed to be Egyptian, he's supposed to have spent a lot of time in Spain, and yet he has a heavy Scottish accent. Never made sense, and so that's like an easy thing that they could fix and do better. No offense to Sean Connery. He was a very talented actor. He's retired now. But yeah, he's just not a very versatile actor. If he can't do his stereotypical accent, he doesn't do anything else. And I prefer a little more versatility and adaptability in my actors. So he should stick with James Bond movies and stuff like that. Maybe Rising Sun was a good Connery movie. Back on track with a movie that I really enjoyed growing up. I talked about the fact that I liked Arnold Schwarzenegger when I was talking about Conan in the fantasy video. In this action video, he's got some good action movies, Predator, and a lot of good action movies. But for me, my favorite has to be Commando. There's the 80s one-liners, the over-the-top stereotypical action. When I was a kid, he had the stopwatch. He had the watch that counted down. It had a countdown timer on it, and I was obsessed with getting a watch that had a countdown timer on it. And I know it's silly, but to this day, when I get a watch, I always look for that feature. I mean, I'm getting ready for a new watch. This one is like the little things broken off. This is flapping around. It's covered in paint from painting the studio. So when I get a new watch, I'm going to look for a countdown timer, because some evil maniacal guy that I was in the military with is going to kidnap my daughter, and I'm only going to have a certain amount of time with which to rescue her. So it's going to really come in handy. But anyway, fun movie. I love it. I've seen it many, many times. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Number 3 on my list is another movie that really personifies a lot of the things that I love. For me, it's basically almost like 3 movies in one. You have a sequence before the opening credits title sequence. There's like a self-contained story. You have the title sequence themselves, which is like a little short film. And then you have the movie itself. And the movie itself has a huge ensemble cast of amazing actors. Danny Trejo, John Malkovich, so many names, Colm Meaney, Nicolas Cage. The one guy's name is not going to come to me and it's going to bug me, but there's so many actors in this movie. Steve Buscemi. Great. It's a great over-the-top action film. It has ridiculous action sequences. I think it's a Bruckheimer movie, so you've got the over-the-top action, but you've got good actors, a ridiculous action script. It is just a great, great movie, and it's not just one movie. Like I said, it feels like 3 movies, so you're getting like excellent value for money. The good guys win, bad guys lose, so you get that feeling of walking out of the movie theater on a high. And so I love this movie for so many reasons, even though it is really cheesy. I love it. Okay, number 4 on the list is the second Luc Besson movie on my overall lists. It's a great action film. It got Natalie Portman her kind of start in acting, and Jean Reno, great actor. And this film goes by a couple of names depending on which country you're in. That's either Leon or The Professional. And it's an amazing action movie, very well directed. Gary Oldman is the main bad guy in it. Let's think, Danny Aiello, I think, is in it. I don't know. I'm not having the best name day, but it's a great action movie, over-the-top action sequences, and it's one of the few movies which, I don't want to spoil it too much, has not really an ambiguous ending. How to describe it without giving too much away? It has an ending which, to some people, is not necessarily happy, but it's satisfying, and I think that's a key to a movie, and that ties into the, you know, walking out of a movie feeling better than when I walked in. It doesn't necessarily mean that a movie has to have a happy ending. It just has to have a satisfying ending. That's really important for me in a movie. You can have a great movie, and then the last few minutes, if it's a letdown at the end, you don't walk out feeling satisfied, even though you really like the rest of the movie. What was it? American Beauty, I think, for me, was a movie like that, where I didn't like the ending, and so it spoiled the whole movie for me. I don't know. Back on track with the last movie, number 5 of my action movies. Bruce Willis has made a lot of great action movies. I already mentioned the Die Hard movies. They don't count because there's a series of them and they're so well known. They are just dependable movies. You can watch them and they're always great. But for me, it's maybe better even than the Die Hard movies. But it is a standalone movie. But it is funny. I think it's written by Shane Black. And actually written and directed by, I think. But anyway, I think, yeah, Damon Wayans in it. Damon Wayans, Chelsea Field. You got a bunch of people in there. Again, great cast of characters. Even though we're only following 2 main protagonists, there's a great series of kind of henchmen. You know, it's almost like Bond villain-esque kind of henchmen going on. It's a great fun movie, and that is The Lost Boy Scout. I managed to find the novelization of it online a while back. I want to get it in a couple of different formats. I'd love to own it on Blu-ray. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray. I should think about adding that to my Christmas wish list or my birthday wish list, because I do love this movie. It's full of action. Rick Duckerman has a little cameo. It's not really a cameo, it's a small appearance in it. He just passed away recently, which is very sad. He's probably most famous for The Burbs. Let's see what else. He had a small part in Spaceballs, which I'll talk about when I talk about the comedy movies that I love. But anyway, great movie. I love that kind of hard-boiled detective story. And trying to think about all the things. Strange Days comes close, but really off the top of my head, The Lost Boy Scout is like the only real detective kind of story on any of the lists, which is interesting because I do like those kind of movies. But anyway, Lost Boy Scout, great action movie, funny. Billy Blanks is in it. Not that that's a good or a bad thing. Probably one of his best movie performances. I apologize to any Billy Blanks fans out there. But it's a fun movie, action-packed, clever story. It is definitely a movie which I think deserves a sequel, maybe even a series of sequels, a TV series. It's such a fun story with so much potential, and it lives up to the potential. It's great just as a standalone movie, but it's one of the few movies out there that I think I would say, you know what, I want more. It was so good, you should push the envelope, push your luck, and I would love to see some more movies with those characters, or more stories with those characters if it was a TV series. But anyway, those are my kind of top 5 action movies. You might disagree, but if you do, that's okay. We all like the movies we like. If you want to tell me I'm wrong, leave it in the comments below. Hopefully I was able to mention a couple of movies maybe you haven't seen. Maybe you didn't think they looked that interesting for some reason, and I urge you now to give them a chance. Seek them out wherever you can. They're all fun, great action movies that you can just enjoy, maybe turn your brain off and just enjoy these fun movies. And with that, I will let you go, but don't worry, I will see you next time.